Hi everyone, it's Baby. We're going to be continuing off with Brilliant Shadows, so without further delay, let's get into it. It's dead. 2 months later. I hope that doesn't mean it's a bad omen. It probably is though. Dead things usually are. The tendril slowly uncoiled, the brown washing away, fading to a violent green. Then the leaf began to uncurl, its dry brown surface began to wash with emerald that then seemed to stain, ebbing to a pure black. The plant stood as erect and tall as it had in life. The regret she had for letting it die several months ago began to fade.
I can't believe it worked.
Ash scrawled wildly into her notes as she spoke the same words aloud.
And it works in the exact same manner as reanimation.
She stared at the phoenix mark on her hand.
Meaning that somewhere out there, my pair is supplementing my power. If they were only a bit closer, I could reanimate something larger. A tree, perhaps.
That's rather amazing. It looks much healthier than anything else I have seen reanimated.
Elfnod stroked one of the leaves, cocking an eyebrow.
Yes, that's odd.
You're sure it's not like a golem?
No. You see, golems are completely different. They're not restored to any semblance of life, they're more like puppets. Yes, there's bodies underneath the armor or clay forms you often see them in, but that's because you can't even turn false life into false bodies. There's just something about organic matter that lets it hold on to that spark.
Oh, could you make a tree golem?
I don't know. I'm not actually a specialist in golems. The only one I've ever made was during my trials.
You know, I could have used your help with the plants I kept in my room on the island. They're all dead, too.
Well, I'm not even sure of the practical uses of this spell yet. Are these plants, for example, safe to eat? Will they eventually die again, like most reanimations? Or can undead plants persist because they're not constrained to such a delicately balanced body structure and system as what we typically reanimate?
Are you asking me?
No, I understand. You're still learning even the basics of paladin magic.
I've actually already advanced a class. Passed my trials so easily that my instructor is preparing the next set. Hector has been an excellent tutor.
Yes, I hear he's quite skilled.
Ash rolled her eyes.
I had thought you were avoiding them because of your feelings, but if I had known the advances you had been making on your research, I am sorry for assuming the worst. This is amazing!
Looking up from the plant, Elfnod gave a hopeful look.
Can I keep one?
No.
Oh, yes, sure. Please do.
Damn it.
Thank you.
He lifted the black-leafed plant and held it up reverently as he examined it.
Do you want to get breakfast?
It's breakfast time?
Were I to not know better, I would say you were spending too much time with Hector.
Yes, well, hopefully he's not still skipping sleep researching my mark.
No, that enthusiasm seems to be spent on his time with us.
How are you and Belinda getting along?
She's a good girl.
Belinda? This is the same Belinda, right?
She is. She's got a thick and spiky shell, but underneath it, she's just a girl who didn't ever expect to be here, let alone be here for as long as she has. She's actually quite sweet.
Now I'm convinced Hector found a way to manipulate people's minds.
Elfnod laughed.
No, I think that a few months spent with each other is enough to help you recognize the good parts of others.
And to have them grow on you.
Elfnod gestured with the plant as he smiled.
Speaking of spending time, how much more time will Heck need you?
Later today is our last session, actually.
Ash raised her eyebrows.
The coincidences will never cease, eh? Do you want to attend the ritual? There's a lot of people who have heard about it. Even a few graduates have returned to the mountain to attend.
Yes, actually. I'd like to actually see what you have been working on.
You should bring one of your plants. Mr. Warlock will light like a pyre.
Light like a pyre?
It means to get excited. Witches used to have rituals where the very skilled among us would be burnt on a pyre.
What?
There were components to protect them from the flames. I don't really know how it worked. I wasn't much of a witch, if you remember.
That sounds terribly useful. Immunity to flames?
I don't even know if it was those particular flames, or flames in general. Might have even been an illusion. No one did the ritual while I was there.
Ash felt her stomach rumble.
I think I need to get some food.
Maybe we'll see that cute cook.
I will go with you. Bring a plant. I'm heading to training right after.
Sure.
Ash chose a pot in which nestled a tiny black bush with a rose as dark as ink.
Let's go.
The two wove through the catacombs of the mountain and found their way to the kitchen. Outside, spattered across the tables that served as the dining room, the few remaining morning stragglers finished their meals. At one, Ash found Belinda sitting across from Hector and Prude. Ash grabbed a bowl of the stew pre-offered by the tall and thin cook who stood behind the counter. He gave her a wide grin and a second helping.
I didn't see you yesterday. You can't skip meals.
Ah, thanks.
Knowing that this person was worrying about her made her feel oddly content. My cat's at the door. Oh my god. A big bruiser of a thing. She joined the group a moment later.
Hey, gang.
She might as well try to play nice. She missed Prudence. Oh god, are they together? I think they're together now.
We're a gang now? Ooh, I wasn't aware we were participating in illegal activities.
The comment garnered a laugh from the group and Prude lay her head on Hector's shoulder.
I honestly don't know if you're joking or asking, and somehow that makes it funnier.
The only thing criminal is the amount of studying I have done over my winter break.
I assure you there is no legal limit to studying, else I would have found it.
Belinda groaned, but her face brightened when Elfnord arrived behind Ash.
Mind if we join you?
Please, have a seat. Where have you been? I swear I haven't seen you in what must have been months.
I kind of got caught up in my research.
Is that why you have that rose?
Hector's eyes widened.
Did you figure it out? Can I see it?
Ash offered the small pot and Hector took it with the care one might handle the most fragile of glass.
Oh my.
Hector went silent as he buckled over the plant.
Well, I hope you didn't need to talk to him. He's going to be silent for the next half an hour just looking at it.
Prude gave the plant a glance herself.
Reanimation?
Yeah.
I thought you had to have your pair to perform reanimation.
There haven't been many tests to determine the range at which a pairing can share magic.
I estimate the upper limit is outside of any reasonable test range.
Oh, he's actually paying attention.
I know better than to ever completely ignore you.
Aw, that's sweet.
Ash was surprised at how little it bothered her to see Prude kiss Hector on the cheek.
Time is the greatest of healers.
What was that?
Nothing.
Looking across the table, she found surprise elsewhere, catching Belinda lay moon eyes on Elfnord. That couldn't end well. Oh yeah, 'cause he's gay.
So, what was the trick?
Trick?
I mean, how did you do it?
I'm still a little bit shocked he's actually talking.
There wasn't a trick. I had to completely develop a new spell type.
Would you be willing to teach it to me?
No,
I might as well learn it too, if you're offering.
I'm not.
I think I want to do some more research before I start sharing the spell.
Ash braced herself, expecting Hector to refuse such a flimsy excuse. Instead, he nodded.
I understand. Just tell me if you need help.
Sure. Thanks.
Oh shit, oh shit, sorry, that's Facebook. Go away, Facebook. I am so sorry about that.
So, Elfie, are you ready for the ritual?
Yes, of course.
What's so special about your session today? Elfnod said something about performing a ritual?
Just one moment, there we go.
That's because we are. We're actually going to be performing the pairing ritual.
Ash's eyes grew wide.
Ugh, don't worry. They've actually done it twice before. And while they weren't well trained enough to complete it successfully, they were not compatible.
I imagine the heads would attempt to stop me were they to think I would be creating pairs outside of the early ritual.
Hector, Warlock, what did I tell you about the heads?
Hector turned from the plant and blushed.
Treat my elders with more respect.
Yes. Now stop acting like you intend to overthrow the orders.
Yes. No, you are right. I am sorry.
Prude gave Ash a wink. Apparently, she had tamed the savage beast.
Not that I couldn't if I wanted to.
Hector screamed to the hall in general. Mostly tamed, at least. Ash finished her stew and let out a sigh. She hadn't been eating properly, and the extra serving had helped. The cooks here were disturbingly observant sometimes. For a moment she wondered if there was a magic to cooking, and if perhaps the head cook, Mistress Geishund, was some sort of head herself. Ash dismissed the idea and watched as Hector finished his third bowl.
Looks like everyone is here. Should we head straight to the garden?
Can I keep the flower?
No! Why does everyone keep asking that?
Sure.
God damn it.
I will call it George.
Really? Really?
You don't need to name plants, Heck.
George!
Mostly tame.
I shouldn't need to tell you what to do. Begin.
Belinda took in a deep breath, and for a moment the garden hung in silence. Even after having been told, Ash was surprised to see she wasn't the only spectator. There were at least another 24 students, and judging by the few pairs sticking to the back, at least 2 graduates. Elfnod flared with such an intense flaming white light that a gasp ran through the crowd. The amount of power he produced easily rivaled that of any graduate, and somehow made Ash flush with pride by proximity of her friend and recent confidant. Belinda took another deep breath, but nothing happened to her. Elfnod's light began to pour forth, beginning to bridge the distance between him and Belinda. Hector's face was bleached by that light, as his eyes darted wildly and he silently mouthed something. Belinda's third breath seemed to tear shadow from the earth beneath her, coiling up and around with tendrils of pitch darkness. Extending a hand, the tendrils coiled around her arm and reached outwards. Ash was shocked that 2 months ago these two had been remedial students. This control of their energy showed an amount of technique revered for the likes of heads. As soon as the two touched, there was a flare and an explosion. She had been prepared. Prude and Hector had warned her to brace herself, though they had not provided the luxury of that warning to any of the other attendants. While the rest of the crowd was drawing themselves back to their feet, Hector looked over the pair with a smile of satisfaction.
8,312 meters.
Would you mind explaining exactly how you calculated that?
Came a voice from the crowd. A commotion began to rise before a sudden bark of excitement broke over the noise.
I have a mark!
Silence fell like a hammer.
What?
Elfnord turned to Ash with a grin and revealed a black flower on the back of his hand.
Rather pretentious, no?
Belinda was beside him in a moment, showing Ash the same mark.
You have to teach me your spell now! It's fate!
The two exchanged hands, looking at each other's marks. Their eyes met and they smiled.
Well, Ash, we should probably pack. We're going to be thrown out.
Ash looked for Hector, already gone from where he had stood before.
Where did Hector go?
I told him under no circumstance would he be allowed to overthrow the orders, and that when we got thrown out, we had to leave. He said he needed to pack.
Did she know about this? Or that this was going to happen?
Do you need anything specific from your room?
No, not really. I have everything I really need memorized. Clothes, I suppose?
A small part of her regretted not going to retrieve healing plants, but it was childish to cling to such fancies.
Meh. My mother will buy us some new equipment.
Ash watched as the number of students began to retreat, fear on their faces. The graduate pair from earlier was gone.
Do you have any idea of what you have done?
The voice from earlier. Ash looked for its origin, finding a thin woman bearing down on the retreating Hector.
The ramifications of this are far beyond any of your earlier antics.
Nissa, this is not the time.
I am sure you think this will be seen as a good thing, but your variation of the ritual will be far from it. The ease with which your ritual can be performed will create situations where casters, entirely unprepared to become a mage, will pair. The kind of power gained through a pairing will create pseudo-mages with far more power than training. I think we may be able to prevent this kind of behavior in the mountain, but can't you see?
Nissa, stop.
The woman glared, remaining silent for a moment. Hector used the moment of silence to continue his retreat, and in less time than it took her to continue her tirade, he was gone.
Fool.
Nissa spoke as she watched him go. With narrowed, predatory eyes, she turned to meet the gaze of Ash. A shiver ran down Ash's spine as their eyes met, and she quickly turned away to let out a short string of obscenities over the shiver. Did she need to wear more layers or something? This was getting ridiculous. When Ash turned back, she saw Nissa was marching towards her, purpose in her movements and expression. No, she was mistaken. She wasn't coming to her. She was coming to...
Prude, is it? Prudence Celeste, royal princess and heir to the Celeste throne.
That's right.
I cannot determine from what little I know of you why you might be paired to someone like him. You certainly don't appear to be cut from the same cloth.
How can you...
Perhaps it's a situation of opposites attracting. You're paired under the mark of the spider, no? Which one of you is the spider, and which is caught in the web, I wonder?
Ash readied herself for a shiver, and was pleased to find that it didn't come. She silently celebrated a victory as she continued to watch the interaction.
Neither. Mark reading is purely nonsense. More importantly, who are you?
This is Nissa. She's a graduate from the same class as Hector.
Ah, and you are?
Ash.
The woman's eyes snapped back to Ash, now gleaming with recognition. Ash tried to casually hide her hand behind her back. Nissa nodded curtly, looking away.
Ash here is correct. I was in Hector's class. I graduated as a poison and venom specialist. Were it not for Hector, I would have been top of my class. I would have been the top of any class in the last 10 years if not for him. It is hard to believe he still performed so well amidst his, how shall we say, antics.
Antics?
It's hard to believe his reputation is not so well remembered. Likely for the best.
Ash waited for Nissa to explain further, but she merely grew silent instead.
Venom and poison specialist, how is that useful?
An ignorant question. Surely you are aware that most mundane medicines are a poison of one sort or another, if used improperly.
Well, maybe if you overdose on them.
The same holds true for poisons. In the appropriate application of a venom or poison, one can heal. My partner is a masterful healer. Combined, I would argue we are the most prominent healers on the continent.
Isn't Hector a knock specialist? Doesn't that mean he has the same speciality as you?
Nissa tried to hold back a scowl.
Admittedly, in a way he does. But claiming to be a knock specialist is like claiming to be a magic specialist. It is claiming specialization in an enormous category. It's a ridiculous title. That having been said, I have no doubt that given whatever he is, he could replicate what I do, and more.
What he is?
He's a grey mage, I knew it!
I should not have said that. It was rude of me.
What do you know, Nissa? As the din of the crowd grew, Nissa looked about and then turned back to Ash.
I must take my leave, as, enlightening as this was, I would rather not suffer the fallout due from the heads.
She slinked away, a shape half hidden behind the pillars of the courtyard falling into step immediately behind her. Scanning the pillars, Ash realised with a start that the cook from earlier was there, the one who had given her an extra helping. The cook's eyes fell not on the fresh pair, nor on Prude, but on herself. She started towards him, but the crowd broke her line of sight, and in the faintest flutter of a heartbeat, he was gone. Ash wheeled around, trying to follow the boy's path.
How long do you think before the heads show up and kick us out?
Ash turned to Alfnod and Belinda, who were still speaking with joint enthusiasm. Oddly appropriate that the older students should end up paired.
I doubt much longer.
As though life was some cosmic play, and the words were an actor's cue, the heads arrived.
Where is he?
Ash had never seen such rage in Luciana. She had always been the voice of reason between the two. Zachariah was manic, in the sense that she was actually smiling.
You! What are you doing here? To your room!
She shouted at a passing student observer.
You!
Luciana's eyes locked with Ash.
Somehow I feel I should have known you were a part of this. I am sorry for your issues with your mark, but you cannot be involved in things like this. You must leave immediately.
Luciana's head snapped to Prudence. Zachariah stepped towards the group, practically cooing as she spoke.
Hector is to be punished. When we catch him, we will strip him of his magic. As his pair, you will suffer the same fate.
No, Zachariah! You cannot do so much, not to her!
No, you cannot.
Hector had returned, though from where he had come, Ash could not say. A backpack and a sword that pained Ash's eyes, shimmering either white or black as the light struck, were all he carried.
You dare to bring such a thing here?
Hector slid the blade free and held its point directly at Zachariah.
You touch her and you will see exactly how much I dare.
Venom dripped from his every syllable with a noxious toxicity that seemed to leave the air stained with malice.
Hector, let's get out of here!
We're coming too.
Yeah!
You steal our students now, Hector. Do you truly intend to try to overthrow the orders?
Boy, you think yourself strong, but you have no concept of the true power we hold.
That sounds ominous.
Believe me, girl, it is. I do not boast, but Hector, we have never really tried to harm you. Do not doubt we could.
I have no interest in your order anymore. There's so much more out there, up there. I am done here.
For a moment they all merely stood. Ash readied herself for the coming fight. Instead, Zachariah turned away, slowly.
Get out! Now!
A glow began to burn within her. Ash felt it as much as she could see it.
Enhancement magic. Is that all of which a head is capable?
I will snap you in half, boy.
I would love to see...
He did not finish his words as Prude gagged him violently and began to lead the small party's retreat.
We're leaving! Thank you, heads!
They made their escape in silence. Ash was in open air before she had really thought to move her feet. The smell of a storm brewed in the distance.
Are we gonna be okay?
We have 5 of the best mages in the mountain. We'll be better than okay.
Hector and Prude seemed both ill at ease. The high spirits of Belinda and her partner did not seem to be capable of being dampened. Ash merely wondered why she was there.
We'll be great.
The rain fell down on them with a torrential force that left the world around them soft.
You're so useless, Elfnod.
Oh, look at them all.
I am sorry. Shielding is one of my weakest skills.
I am also sorry. I have nothing in my kit that could provide cover from rain.
I don't really expect any of you three to provide a solution.
Prude's hands were above her head, a shield casting aside rain as it fell. The gesture was technically unneeded, but it had always helped her focus.
Unless... Ash, do you think you can grow an oak?
Sure, got a dead one around here.
The vast fields that surrounded the isolated mountain left no such growths.
I am glad we stopped walking, though. That muck would be awful to march through.
If only we had a witch.
A witch requires living or fresh-picked plants for their spells. I think we'd be in the same boat, even with a witch.
Hector grumbled. A flash of lightning crawled across the sky and breached the earth in a pale blue light. Excuse me, sorry. In that flare, Ash caught sight of a figure in the distance. Pale grey robes, hooded, standing stock still. And then the light faded, lost to the darkness.
There's someone out there.
Who would be fool enough to follow us in this weather?
The lightning burst across the sky, and in that pale light, there was nothing. She was sure she had seen someone. Her finger pointed to the spot just as lightning struck again. There was nothing.
What did you see?
A figure in a pale cloak.
The group stared out into the darkness. Hector shifted, his eyes betrayed the fear he had hid from his face. He drew his strange sword and offered it to Prude. She took it without a word.
We move.
Oh, what about the mud?
We will have to deal with it.
You can't be serious.
Alfnod took in a deep breath, and a small burst of white wrung out from his body. Ash's fatigue faded slightly.
Wow, already learning to heal?
It's not much, but it'll help us last the night.
I wish I had a dead horse.
I think a living one would be more handy. With that, the group began to march, the dry patch quickly growing thick with mud behind them. The sun had crawled into the sky, the ground was still thick with mud, but their feet no longer sank so deeply.
I think we should have brought food.
There are a few meals in my backpack.
When were you going to share that information?
When I felt safe again.
Hector, we aren't all as capable as you in the regard of stamina. We need a break.
Hector turned to Prude, who nodded. Taking stock of herself, Ash was surprised to find she was far less tired than she should be. Had Elf not been assisting her through the night? Judging by the ragged nature of both him and his pair, she doubted it. She dared not say it, but the pursuant grey mage may be responsible for her vigour. Ash felt a hint of pride in that the thought did not send a shiver down her spine. She was getting better at suppressing those. Hector retrieved a number of capped pitchers, clearly stolen from the cafeteria, and began to offer them around.
The stew from yesterday. When did he get this?
The young cook who watched the ritual gave them to me. I suppose he was as aware as anyone else as to the events that were about to transpire.
Ash raised her eyebrows.
Hey, speaking of transpiring, what happened last night? What's so scary about someone in a pale cloak?
They're flashes. You better watch out for them.
Belinda, that's the traditional garb of a grey mage.
Belinda's eyes darted the way they came, and she slowly took a drawer from her pitcher.
We made enough tracks that a blind child could follow us.
Hiding won't work on a grey mage. They can sense magic in much the way the Rod of Finding can.
That's why we were so keen to run, Belinda.
Then why did we stop?
Belinda took a long drawer from her pitcher and offered it back to Hector as she stood up.
Let's go!
The rest of the group emulated the gesture.
We need to move quickly.
Why is a grey mage interested in us?
It's because of Hector. Blame him. Oh, it might be... What if it's our pair? Because we're paired to a great mage, apparently. Probably because of us.
Because it's after me.
Silence fell across the group.
I agree.
Another silence echoed.
Wait, why would...
My mark. There's a chance that I am paired to a grey mage.
The silence continued, deafening. The sun began to crawl skywards before they stopped again. Prude raised one hand, the group halting at the command, too exhausted to question it. Placing a finger to her lips, she gestured for silence. The group quickly made to rest. Belinda removed her shoes to find raw, bloodied feet. The rest of the group fared better, most at least marginally calloused, though Ash's feet were still red and cracked.
Owie.
Belinda grew silent with a single look from Prude. When had she assumed such command of their group? Hector cocked his head, turning slightly towards Prude, who pressed her ear to the earth. A moment passed.
Hoof beats?
There!
Following Elfnod's finger, Ash saw a small force of mounted infantry in the distance. Above them flew a black flag with an intricate white pattern.
Mom?
How would your mother know that we were here?
Oh, I asked a friend to send a messenger bird on the way out. I didn't want to walk the entire distance.
Good thinking.
Belinda! I could kiss you!
Belinda flushed and spoke under her breath.
No complaints here. Please do.
The man missed the comment and Ash grimaced. That would definitely not end well. The others appeared to have missed the comment as well, as they raised their voices and waved. Ah, Belinda! He's gay! He's not into you.
Belinda, do you have a moment?
Ash gently pulled Belinda away from the group.
Yes?
She hesitated for a moment, but finally mustered the words.
I just wanted to warn you. I don't think Elfnod is interested in you.
Don't worry. I have my ways.
Belinda heaved her chest suggestively.
I don't think they're the right ways.
I appreciate your concern, but I am fine.
Ash stared at her for a moment before she caught back up with the group.
They must have been riding full tilt since the other day, even through that rain.
Let us pray they might continue that pace. We need a way to ensure we can escape that damnable grey mage.
Turning behind, Hector threw both hands into the air in an obscene gesture towards the empty plains behind them.
Find us now, shit-slingers!
Oh, I like that one.
Finally learning curses?
It's what Mother would want.
I wish I had a mum that would want me to learn curses. Instead, she just looks at me with disappointment. I'm kidding. The cavalry seemed to spot them and of course corrected towards the band. The group seemed to breathe a collective sigh. Oops. Whoops. And removing their minimal provisions, they finished off the ice-cold stew. The Mudskipper Inn had always been considered quaint and simple. While the beer was well stocked and the beds warm, it would never be considered appropriate for royalty. When the royal guard arrived with the Princess of Celeste and her entourage, the innkeeper found himself debating the merits of asking them to leave simply because he lacked appropriate accommodations. Upon actually seeing the dishevelled, muddy heap of a princess, he reconsidered and wondered what conditions she might have suffered before now.
And make sure that you have all the men housed inside. Sleep in the cellar if you need to. The sky looks foul above us.
But make sure to have 2 guards on duty at all times, with frequent turnovers. We may be hunted, and after only a day's travel, I would not question if the Grey Mage could still catch us.
Yes, milady. Yes, my lord.
I'm not a lord.
Hector made to follow the guard and correct him, but Prude placed her hand on his shoulder.
You are. You're married to a lady. Precedent is that you are now a lord.
What hell is frozen that Hector is now a lord?
Aren't you the son of a king or something, Elfnod? Does that mean I'm a princess?
No, my father is an elected official.
What does that make you?
Nothing at all.
Belinda looked disappointed at that. The group settled quickly, retreating into a familiar efficiency. Before long, they were bathed and groomed and meeting once more in the centre of the inn, where the innkeeper was quick to have his son serve them. An odd, knowing glance fired between Alfnod and the younger man, entirely missed by Belinda, despite the fact she did not take her eyes off him once. Warm bread and tall glasses of mead slowly filling their bellies left the group in a particularly chipper mood.
Throwing you out to school won't mean war or anything, correct?
Hardly. There's an unfortunately large amount of precedent for expelling princesses.
Milady, the king asked that we send a message back upon your arrival to a safe place. Would you be so kind as to write something for her?
Of course. I'll be right back.
Prude walked away and Hector turned to Ash.
Are you a lady, Veronica?
No. My mother was a servant, and shortly after I turned 3, I became the princess's playmate. And don't call me that.
What is Prude's father like?
I never knew. He died before she was even born.
Ah, then the queen remarried?
No. The king is Prude's mother.
So the king was once a woman?
No, she's still a woman.
So it's a title then?
Yes, exactly.
Then would that make Prudence a prince? And would it, under the circumstances that we were to wed, make me a princess?
I don't think that's quite how it works.
Princess Hector! I think it suits you better than the title of head.
I agree. I look forward to the marriage.
Hector did not respond, instead retreating into thought. Before any further joke could be had at his expense, Prude returned. She looked to her pair, still deep in thought.
Oh no, what did you get into his head?
Prudence, I am afraid I cannot marry you. While I do not mind being a princess, I simply cannot handle any excess of pink. And I find dresses far too restrictive of movement.
What?
Hector opened his mouth to explain, but Prude interrupted him with a finger to his lips. She kissed him on the forehead and sat across his lap.
Don't try to explain. I prefer to keep your inner workings a mystery.
Ash felt a twang of jealousy as the two grew close, but for once it was not specific to a lust for Prude. It was the fact that she was sitting so close to a happy couple. Jealousy pulled at her heart. Belinda elbowed Ash and beckoned her to lean down, where she whispered into Ash's ear.
I found the prettiest princess on top of a pile of his books at the library the other day.
Ash raised her eyebrows. That explained a few things. Belinda hiccuped and then smiled at her before turning back to the conversation.
I think I need to step away for a moment.
In unison, the quartet raised their mugs in a sort of mock salute as she departed, the motion almost toppling Belinda, who had ingested a fair bit more than the others. That's so me, just getting messy drunk. Some called alcohol liquid courage. Ash hoped Belinda did not find enough to make a fool of herself to Alfnod. Ash let herself out the front door and watched her breath curl outwards in a white fog as she let out a sigh. The night was far colder than the last two that had followed them here. Fortune had favoured them that they could find shelter from the chill. Ash's eyes turned upwards towards the dancing snowflakes, fluttering like a sea of shooting stars in the reflection of the inn's lamps.
Beautiful.
She spent the time in the night silence, appreciating the beauty, when the significance of the world around her finally dawned. Silence. Given the number of men that were with them, and the fact they should still be busy stabling horses, the silence was an anomaly. A horse still in its saddle began to walk slowly past, dipping down to chew at a patch of the sparse vegetation. In the distance, distance, she saw a figure in a pale cloak.
No.
Fear held her still for a moment, before the hot blood of panic drove her to move. Running back inside, Ash found her companions asleep in the den of the inn, nestled in a motley assortment about the furniture which surrounded the hearth. The warmth struck her with a wave of exhaustion. The cold had edged back. She did not let it consume her.
Wake up! Wake up!
Hector and Prude were on their feet with a swift and practiced ease, both in battle stances, and Hector's left hand a knot of black energy. Alfnod fell out of the seat with Belinda falling shortly after.
The Grey Mage found us. The guards are gone.
Nonsense, the men are just...
He paused as he cocked his head. Oops. He could hear the silence. Hadn't he noticed the hoofbeats earlier? She quashed the thought that he reached for his pack, still at his side.
We need to get to the horses.
They should be in the stables. We must move quickly.
The guard opened the door, keeled over, and a blackened ooze began to pour from his open mouth. Hector drew his sword, handling his pack to Prudence.
Run! I will hold it off.
Oh, like hell or run? We'll stay and fight.
Like hell you will.
Ash did not even give Hector a chance to register her words, grabbing his cloak from behind and dragging him past her. She freed the sword from his hands in a swift flourish and hefted it. The balance was perfect. It was light and suited her. She couldn't help but wonder for a heartbeat why Heck would have a sword like this.
Ash!
No. This is my demon to face. This is my battle to fight. Take Prude and get out of here.
Ash turned away from him.
Keep her safe.
The doorway filled with the silhouette of the pale tan cloak. Ash aimed the blade towards the mage's neck.
Go!
She heard footsteps fade quickly as they escaped. Oh my god! Ew! Slowly, with a practiced ease, the Grey Mage threw back its hood. A face stained black by necrosis, though still as animate as a living man's, met her gaze with white, glazed eyes. The man sneered.
Hello, girl.
Oh, ew! His eyes flickered to her blade, and his sneer seemed to deepen.
Do you know what it is you hold?
Admittedly, not in any particular sense. Obviously, it's a sword.
A sword, she says. Does she not know what she holds? Arla? No, of course she wouldn't.
A shiver ran down Ash's spine, and for once she did not struggle to suppress it.
Yeah, I'm going to assume Arla is your pair whose organs you stole.
Stole? No. We became as one.
Ash really didn't want to hear this. She drove forward, concentrating all her effort into driving the blade home. Inside her, she felt a fire burst to life, and all at once she felt as light as the air itself. The distance between them was gone in a heartbeat, and the blade tore the air directly beside the Grey Mage. She had missed, her balance thrown off by her long dress.
Light and shadow.
She didn't let him finish the sentence, bringing her blade down hard. Ash felt flesh tear as the Grey Mage leapt back, his milky eyes wide. Her advantage, and by extension herself, would only survive as long as she pressed the attack. If the mage had more than a moment to recover, the gap in their power would become apparent. She pulled back for another swing when she noticed the knot of black arching towards her. Desperately, Ash flung herself, trying to evade. The black bolt struck her on the side of her throat, and she began to choke. Weakness took her, and her grip gave out, the blade clattering to the ground. She gasped, but her breath had no purchase.
Impressive. I hadn't imagined the sword would give you access to both pools.
His words meant nothing as she clawed at her own throat, desperate for air. He loomed over her.
A beautiful specimen. It is unfortunate you are already paired. I could use a heart as strong as yours.
Somehow, amidst it all, she looked at his hands. His mark was twisted, so abstract she could not tell its shape. This was not her pair. A weight lifted from her, and she tore out the tiniest gasp.
Strange you should seem so revulsed by a grey mage when you travel with one.
I knew it! Hector was a grey mage. She had been right. But how? Why? Prude. Her hands closed around the hilt. When had she begun to grasp for it? Her next movement was more swift than her addled mind could begin to follow. The blade dashed through his neck, his jaw, up through his skull, and out atop as easily as a sword into the soft muck of a training field. The grey mage stood for a moment, as though unsure. He convulsed, and then collapsed.
Did I just win?
The response was immediate.
You little bitch!
The creature surged forward, grabbing her blade and wrenching it free, a black ichor leaking from the wound she had dealt.
Ah!
Ash desperately groped for a weapon, anything. All she found was one of her roses, still fresh, its black petals a stain of dark on the already poorly lit room. She breathed in the smell, searching for strength. And to her surprise, she found it. Something seemed to catch fire in her chest, a burning sensation that boiled in her lungs. With a cough, she let it out. Inky blackness erupted from her mouth, curling like a plant sprouting with impossible speed. The growth engulfed the grey mage, and then it flowered. The grey mage's screams were brief before the dark flower-like flames did their work. Dissolving the creature slumped to its knees, little more than charred lumps remaining of its extremities. She stared at the body. The full realization of what she had done dawned upon her. Buckling over, she erupted with the recent banquet she had eaten. A moment of relief, and she retched again. Hector, Prude. With effort she found her feet. Ash exploded out the front door, staring out into the silent white night. Hoofprints were being lost in the falling snow, leading away from the stables, leading to Celeste.
They escaped, thank the goddess.
Snow crunched behind her. In the darkness, her eyes met a grey cloaked figure. Silence stood between them. Ash raised the blade with an unsteady arm.
Don't cross me tonight, or I'll end you just like I did the last grey mage.
Whoa, okay. This obviously isn't the best time for you. We can talk later then.
Without another word, the figure retreated into the darkness. Did that count as a win? Ash decided that it would be a yes. Definitely a win. The celebratory mood lasted about as long as it took her to realize there were no horses left. With a groan, she took a deep breath and broke into a slow trot. Her fist was still clutching the black and white blade, as though she feared nothing more than losing it. As she ran through though she struggled against them, so too did her thoughts. Got reanimated. Okay, I need to stop recording right now, but I will see you in the next video, everyone. Jeez. Whew, a lot happened, didn't it? A lot happened in what feels like a short amount of time. Shit hit the fan. Oh, wow. Okay, well, that's all for this video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.